You wake up exhausted, work until your spine aches, collapse into bed, and repeat the cycle. 3 years pass this way. You check your bank account, and nothing has changed. This is not bad luck, and this is not your failure. This is geometry. The world tells you a story about how success works. Work hard, be valuable, and success will follow. It's a comforting lie. Not because hard work is useless, but because the game is not about work at all. It's about position. Right now, you are positioned downstream in an economic river. You generate energy and create value, but you capture none of it. Someone else sits upstream where they built a dam. Your effort flows through their system. They extract wealth while you exhaust yourself. This is Machiavelli's forgotten principle about power and wealth. Power is not virtue or talent. Power is position. The prince who controls the fortress controls the entire kingdom. Not the strongest soldier, not the most skilled archer, but the one who occupies the high ground. Every economic system has high ground, invisible coordinates where wealth concentrates automatically. Most men never see these positions. They spend their entire lives fighting in the valley, while the positioned few watch from above and collect. You think the system is broken or unfair. It's not broken. It's functioning exactly as designed to concentrate wealth at certain structural points and reward position instead of effort. The rich do not work harder than you. They do not sacrifice more, and they do not possess secret knowledge you lack. They simply occupy different coordinates in the economic architecture, and from those coordinates, wealth flows to them automatically while you drown in effort. This is the law you were never taught in school or by your parents. The law that explains everything you've suffered and struggled against. The law that once seen cannot be unseen. Most men die without ever seeing this architecture. You will not be most men.
Money does not follow effort, talent, virtue, or hours worked. Money follows position in the flow of value. This is the law that governs everything, and you've been blind to it your entire life. Think of the economy as a river system with water flowing downhill. The water represents value, energy, and money in motion. Most men are the water itself, rushing downstream, generating force and power. But water, no matter how fast it moves, captures nothing. The dam captures everything. The dam sits in one position and controls the entire flow. It doesn't move, doesn't rush, doesn't exhaust itself. It simply exists at the right coordinate, and all the power flows through it. You are the water, working 80 hours a week and generating massive value for systems you don't control. The positioned man is the dam. He works 20 hours a week or less because his position does the work for him. Machiavelli understood this in the court. He wrote that the throne holds the power, not the king. A brilliant man without position is powerless. A mediocre man on the throne commands armies. The structure provides the leverage, not the individual occupying it. This is why CEOs who destroy companies still walk away with millions. This is why landlords build wealth while sleeping. This is why the factory owner gets rich while the factory workers stay poor, despite being the ones actually producing the product. Position is leverage, and leverage is the only thing that matters in wealth. If your income stops the moment you stop working, you have no position. You are water, not dam. You are energy being harvested by someone else's structure. The formula is simple and brutal. Outcome equals skill plus effort multiplied by position. If position equals 0, your outcome is 0, no matter how much skill or effort you bring. This is why talented, hard-working people stay poor. This is why lazy, positioned people get rich. The math doesn't care about fairness, it cares about coordinates. You've been playing the wrong game your entire life, optimizing for effort when the game rewards position. Society worships creators, but the economy rewards captors. This is the split that keeps you poor. You were taught to build skills, generate value, produce excellent work, and create things people need. All of this is real, all of this matters, but none of it makes you wealthy unless you also control the capture point. The river generates all the energy, but the dam extracts all the profit. Creation is movement and fluidity. Capture is structure and stillness. Creators expend energy continuously. Captors remain motionless and collect. Look at any industry and you'll see this pattern. The songwriter creates the music, but the record label captures the revenue. The inventor creates the product, but the patent holder or manufacturer captures the wealth. The worker creates value with their hands, but the owner captures it through their position. This is not theft, and this is not unfair. This is simply how value flows through economic systems toward points of control. You think your skill will save you, but skill without capture is just expensive labor. A world-class surgeon can only operate on one patient at a time, bound by their physical body and hours in the day. The hospital owner controls the scalable structure and captures value from 50 surgeons simultaneously. The surgeon has more skill, works harder, saves more lives. The hospital owner has position and becomes wealthy. Creation scales linearly at best because it's tied to your time and your body. Capture scales exponentially because it's tied to structure and position. You can only create so much in a day. A positioned structure can capture endlessly. This is why pride in hard work is a trap. You're proud of generating energy while someone else captures it. You're proud of being the river while they build dams. The elites understood this centuries ago. Rockefeller didn't drill for oil. He controlled the refineries where all oil had to flow. Bill Gates didn't write all the code. He positioned himself to control the licensing of software. They positioned themselves at the bottleneck, the choke point, the place where value must pass through. And you are still trying to create your way to wealth. There is a hierarchy of positions, and most men never climb past the first level. Here is the ladder of economic leverage that determines your wealth. Level 1 is the laborer who sells time directly for money. Every hour you work generates 1 hour of income. When you stop, income stops. This is zero leverage. You are trapped in linear exchange with no optionality and no escape. Level 2 is the merchant who sells products or outcomes instead of hours. You can make money while sleeping because the product exists independently of your time. This is slight leverage, but you're still operationally trapped. The business owns you, even if you own the business. Level 3 is the architect who owns intellectual property, systems, or processes that replicate without you. Your creation duplicates infinitely with near zero marginal cost. You are detached from the operation. The system runs itself and pays you. This is real leverage. Level 4 is the capitalist who allocates resources and controls structures but never touches the product. You own equity. You control the board. You direct the flow of capital. You have maximum leverage because you operate entirely through position and other people's energy. Most men spend 40 years climbing from laborer to slightly better paid laborer. They never jump levels. They optimize within level 1, negotiating for slightly higher hourly rates or salaries, never understanding that the entire level is a cage. The jump from level 1 to level 2 requires a psychological break, not just a business decision. You must stop selling time and start selling outcomes. This terrifies most men because outcomes are uncertain and time feels safe. The jump from 2 to 3 requires detachment.
You must build something that works without you. Most entrepreneurs cannot do this because their ego is fused to their effort. The jump from 3 to 4 requires capital allocation and control. You must operate through structure and other people instead of your own hands. Each level is not a promotion, it's a completely different game with different rules and different mathematics. A high-paid laborer making $500,000 per year has less freedom and less wealth potential than a level 3 architect making $200,000 because leverage compounds and salary caps. Position determines everything, not income level. 3 psychological chains keep you locked in the downstream position, and you probably defend all 3. The first chain is identity bondage. You built your sense of self around hard work, struggle, and effort. Your ego is attached to the grind. You are proud of your exhaustion, proud of your sacrifice, proud of working 80-hour weeks. This pride is a trap. It keeps you loyal to a losing strategy because admitting the strategy failed means admitting your identity is built on a lie. So you defend the grind even as it destroys you. The second chain is salary sedation. The regular paycheck is a drug that numbs your ambition and makes risk feel unbearable. Every 2 weeks, money appears in your account without you having to think, plan, or face uncertainty. This regularity is hypnotic. It makes you dependent. It makes the idea of irregular income feel like chaos. So you stay in the job that pays you just enough to keep you trapped, but not enough to build real wealth. The third chain is the risk illusion. You think employment is safe, and positioning yourself upstream is risky. This is backwards. Employment is the riskiest position because you have zero diversification and zero control. One decision by someone above you and your income disappears. You are one conversation away from economic collapse, but you call this safety. The positioned man has 10 income streams, controls the structure, and can see threats coming. He has real safety because he has control and options. You have a paycheck and call it security. These 3 chains work together. Your identity makes you defend the struggle. The salary makes risk feel unbearable. The risk illusion makes you believe the cage is safety. And so you stay downstream, drowning in effort, calling it virtue. The rich do not have these chains because they redefined safety as control, not comfort. They redefined success as position, not effort. And they killed the identity that worships exhaustion. Until you break these chains, nothing changes. Wealth concentrates at bottlenecks, the narrow points where value must flow through. If you control the bottleneck, you control the profit. Think of any gold rush in history. Thousands of miners flood into the territory, working brutal hours, digging in the dirt, risking their lives. A few find gold, most go broke. But the man selling shovels gets rich with certainty. He positioned himself at the bottleneck. Every miner needs a shovel. Every miner flows through his position. This is bottleneck theory, and it applies to every market and every era. In the internet age, the bottleneck was search. Google positioned itself there and captured the flow of attention. They don't create the content, they control the gateway. In the creator economy, the bottleneck is the algorithm and platform access. YouTube and Instagram control the flow of attention. Creators generate the value. Platforms capture the profit. In real estate, the bottleneck is access to capital and deal flow. The agent and the banker control the bottleneck. The buyer and seller need them. In corporate life, the bottleneck is decision-making authority and resource allocation. The executive controls what gets funded and what dies. Every system has a point where flow narrows, where everything must pass through a single gate. That gate is the bottleneck. The bottleneck owner has monopoly power even if they produce nothing themselves. This is why competition is for people without position. Once you control a bottleneck, competition becomes irrelevant. People must flow through your gate whether they like you or not. Rockefeller understood this perfectly. He didn't compete in oil drilling, which was chaotic and risky. He controlled the refineries. Every barrel of oil had to pass through his bottleneck. He extracted profit with certainty, while drillers gambled and failed. Your job is to identify the bottleneck in your industry or market. Where does value flow concentrate? Where is the gate? Where is the choke point that cannot be bypassed? Then position yourself there, or build your own bottleneck by creating the thing everyone needs but nobody else provides. Most men never ask this question, so they stay in the crowd, competing on effort and skill. The positioned man asks only this question and ignores everything else. If you cannot own the asset yet, become the gatekeeper who controls access to it. This is the first strategic move for men without capital. The gatekeeper doesn't create the product, doesn't own the factory, doesn't possess the asset. The gatekeeper controls the flow between the problem and the solution. He stands at the gate and charges a toll for access. Real estate agents are gatekeepers. They don't own the property. They control access to it. Buyers and sellers must flow through them to transact. Investment bankers are gatekeepers. They don't own the companies. They control access to capital and deals. Headhunters are gatekeepers. They don't employ the talent. They control access between companies and candidates. In every case, the gatekeeper captures value by owning the relationship, the access, or the attention. They become structurally necessary without owning the underlying asset. This is how you build position before you have capital. You position yourself between demand and supply. You become the bridge. You control the introduction. The key is to make yourself non-bypassable. If someone can go around you, you have no position. If they must flow through you, you have leverage. This means building proprietary relationships, controlling distribution channels, or owning the attention of a specific audience. Once you control the flow, you can charge for access. Most men try to become the product. The positioned man becomes the gate. You don't need to be the best. You need to be the only path. You don't need to create the most value. You need to control the point where value flows through. This is why attention is the modern currency. Whoever controls attention controls the flow of money. The influencer doesn't create the product. They control access to the audience. The brand pays them because the audience must flow through their gate. Find the flow in your market and position yourself at the narrowest point. Become the bridge, the connector, the toll collector. Capture a percentage of every transaction without producing the product yourself. This is the gatekeeper move, and it works with zero capital, if you build it correctly.
The next level above gatekeeper is architect, the man who builds systems that generate wealth without him. This is where labor dies and leverage begins. The architect creates intellectual property, processes, or systems that replicate infinitely with near zero marginal cost. He builds it once, it pays him forever. He is detached from the operation because the system runs itself. Software is the clearest example of this. Write the code once, sell it 10,000 times. Every sale after the first is almost pure profit because there's no additional labor required. The product duplicates itself. But this principle applies beyond software. A franchise system is architecture. The founder builds the process, the brand, and the replication model. Then other people execute it and pay him for access to the system. A licensing deal is architecture. Create the intellectual property once, license it to multiple users who pay you repeatedly. The shift from merchant to architect is psychological.
The merchant is still tied to fulfillment and operations. The architect builds the machine that fulfills automatically. Most entrepreneurs cannot make this shift because they are emotionally attached to being needed. Their ego requires them to be involved, so they build businesses that own them instead of systems they own. The architect asks a different question, not "How do I do this better?" but "How do I build a system that does this without me?" This requires detachment and a focus on process instead of product. You are not building a business, you are building a replicating mechanism that generates value independently of your time and presence. Once you build this architecture, your income becomes divorced from your effort. You can make money while sleeping, traveling, or doing nothing. The system runs, you collect. This is the level where wealth becomes inevitable instead of effortful. You stop trading time for money and start collecting royalties from systems. The key is to own the system, not just operate within it. Employees operate within someone else's architecture. Architects own the architecture and collect from everyone operating inside it. Build once, collect forever. This is the protocol. The laborer inside you must die, or you will stay downstream forever. You are attached to an identity that worships effort, celebrates exhaustion, and measures worth by hours worked. This identity is your cage. Pride in hard work is a losing strategy. It's pride in being exploited. It's pride in generating energy for someone else's dam. Yet you defend it because your ego is built on it. When someone suggests you work smarter instead of harder, you feel insulted. When someone says your 80-hour weeks are a waste, you feel attacked. This is identity defense. You are protecting the cage because dismantling it means admitting you built your self-image on a lie. The positioned man has no attachment to effort. He is ruthlessly focused on leverage and outcome. He does not romanticize the grind. He does not wear exhaustion as a badge. He sees exhaustion as evidence of strategic failure. Your identity must shift from laborer to allocator. You are no longer someone who works. You are someone who allocates resources toward leverage, time, attention, energy, and eventually capital. You allocate strategically toward positions that multiply. This psychological shift is more important than any business decision you make, because as long as you identify as someone who trades time for money, you will unconsciously recreate that pattern no matter what opportunities appear. Kill the laborer, become the architect, become the allocator, become the positioned man who controls flow instead of generating it. This is identity death, and it's the only way upstream. Most men will never see what you now see. They will work until they collapse, believing the lie that effort equals reward. They will die in the valley, never knowing the high ground existed. You are no longer most men. You see the architecture now, the dams, the bottlenecks, the positions where wealth concentrates automatically. You understand that the game is not about effort, it's about coordinates. The water is rising. Automation, globalization, and economic compression are drowning everyone positioned downstream. Only those who occupy leverage points will survive what's coming. You have two choices: reposition yourself upstream or drown with the crowd. There is no third option. There is no middle ground. There is no safety in staying where you are. The positioned few will thrive. The laboring many will be erased. Choose your coordinates.